All right, let's just jump right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping way past the daily hype cycle and the flashy product launches to look at the actual structural architecture of the artificial intelligence industry. We're going to be breaking down Karen Hao's absolutely groundbreaking investigation, Empire of AI. Now, Ha is a Pulitzer Center AI Accountability Fellow, and based on hundreds of insider interviews, she literally pulls back the curtain on the power dynamics driving mega labs like OpenAI. Because, this isn't just about code anymore. It's about control, it's about massive capital, and it's about the hidden supply chains that are quietly shaping our global future. So get ready to look at the tools you use every single day through a completely different, highly analytical lens. I want you to stop and really think about this philosophical paradox for a second. If a company's fundamental mission can be quietly redefined every 18 months, did it ever truly have a mission at all? It's this massive structural vulnerability that we kind of just ignore in the tech world, but it actually forms the foundational thesis of everything we're exploring today. Okay, let's wind the clock back and dive into what Hao documents is OpenAI's foundational paradox. Because the timeline here is just stark. OpenAI was incorporated back in 2015, right? And it was set up as a nonprofit. It was explicitly designed with safety as its core mission, a deliberate, structural check against profit-driven AI forces. But then, fast forward just 5 years, and that architecture dramatically shifted. They take this massive $1 billion investment from Microsoft, they build this new capped profit structure, and suddenly they're in an absolute scale-at-all-costs arms race. Now, Hao argues this wasn't just some accidental mission drift. It was actually the inevitable result of having this vague utopian mission statement that leadership could just seamlessly and continuously redefine whenever they needed to. So by 2024, Hao notes that the phrase benefit of humanity functionally just became a cover. It meant whatever justified the next massive round of capital raising. And for the business leaders watching this explainer right now, I really encourage you to audit the AI vendors you're using. Ask yourself, does their stated utopian mission actually align with their enterprise-scale pricing models? Because when competitive pressure ramps up, what happens to those safety commitments? The sources show us this very clear pattern of safety team departures at OpenAI. We're talking about key figures like Ilya Sutskever and Mira Murati leaving. It heavily suggests that when push comes to shove, the original mission just gets completely subordinated to rapid, unchecked expansion. And this foundational paradox builds directly into Hao's most original and honestly most fascinating analytical framework, what she calls the AGI religion. Artificial general intelligence isn't just treated as a technological milestone anymore. Within Silicon Valley, it has fully morphed into a quasi-religious ideology. By treating AGI as this imminent, all-powerful, almost godlike entity, it creates this psychological environment where absolute urgency just completely silences any basic corporate accountability. Inside OpenAI and across the wider industry, Hao identifies this brilliant false dichotomy. On one side, you have the boomers, the people who believe AGI is going to bring about an absolute utopia. And on the flip side, you have the doomers, the ones who believe AGI will literally destroy humanity. Now, they sound like exact opposites, right? But Hao argues they are actually two sides of the exact same coin. Because both of these camps assume AGI is imminent, it's inevitable, and it's supremely powerful. And crucially, both of these supposedly opposing narratives serve the exact same political function. They justify exactly why a very small, exclusive group of people absolutely must hold tight, unquestioned control over AI development. But Hao offers us a really powerful alternative stance here. She completely refuses to play into the religious fervor. And for your business, this means you need to develop an accountability lens. Look, when a vendor comes to you and tells you their technology is so world-shatteringly transformative that it needs special exemptions from standard governance, yeah, that is a massive red flag. You should actively be building supplier diversity in your AI stack. Lean toward the vendors who offer sober, bounded claims and welcome independent audits, rather than the ones operating with this intoxicating, world-ending sense of urgency. I want to pause for a second here, break the fourth wall, and ask you directly. Think about the tools your business relies on right now. Do you know who actually trained those AI models? And more importantly, do you have any idea what it cost them personally? Because behind all those sleek, futuristic interfaces in Silicon Valley, there's a visceral, deeply physical, and often very dark supply chain. And that brings us to the concept of data colonialism. Hao traveled extensively for this, from Kenya to Venezuela, just to document the hidden labor supply chain that is actually powering AI. She draws these direct, undeniable parallels between 19th century colonial extraction, seizing resources from the global south to enrich a distant elite, and the modern operations of today's tech giants. It is a system built heavily on literal psychological trauma and extracted environmental resources. Just look at the global footprint here. Hao documents Kenyan workers who were contracted through a middleman firm called Sama, and their job was to read the most extreme, horrifying text on the internet just to categorize it for AI safety filters. They were paid at or below local minimum wage, and many developed lasting PTSD. And when those workers tried to organize and demand better conditions, the work was just unexpectedly cut off. Meanwhile, over in Chile, Google attempted to build a data center that would consume more freshwater annually than the entire local community combined. The staggering contrast here between the polished, high-tech facade we're constantly sold and the devastating low-tech exploitation happening on the ground, it's profound. And hey, this isn't just an ethics issue anymore. Within the next 18 to 24 months, global regulations are likely going to make this labor provenance a massive supply chain compliance risk for your business. So, how do these megalabs actually evade oversight for all these practices? Well, they use geopolitics as a shield. Specifically, they deploy the "what about China" narrative weapon. Hao explains that literally whenever AI regulation is proposed, the megalabs jump in and argue that restricting their development means democratic values will lose the AI race to China. By framing their profit-seeking, scale-at-all-cost behavior as this kind of patriotic duty, they effectively outrun regulation and completely shut down oversight before it even gets off the ground. But, as the Stanford Center on Philanthropy and Civil Society frames it so perfectly, the greatest threat of these AI empires is the erosion of democracy. Hao's critical response to all of this is that, yes, geopolitical competition is very real, but using it to justify zero corporate accountability, that is a choice. It is not a necessity. If your AI vendor is using artificial competitive urgency to pressure you into skipping your standard due diligence, you need to recognize that for exactly what it is, a sales tactic. Do not skip your checks. And all of this, the mission drift, the AGI religion, the unchecked power, it all culminated in this crazy, cinematic climax that the whole world watched unfold in real time. I'm talking about the November 2023 boardroom coup, where OpenAI's safety-focused board fired their CEO, Sam Altman. That crisis completely ripped the mask off the industry. It laid bare the massive governance power vacuum right at the very heart of the AI revolution. 120. That is the exact number of hours it took for the entire structure to just collapse. Within 120 hours, Microsoft's massive financial leverage, combined with the profound emotional investment of employees who viewed Altman as the literal embodiment of their AGI mission, completely overrode OpenAI's much-cited, supposed non-profit governance. Altman was reinstated, the safety board members were gone, and the commercial momentum was entirely unchecked. The core lesson from that wild weekend is crystal clear. A non-profit safety mission with no actual enforcement mechanism is purely decorative. It is not functional. Hao argues that a governance structure that completely collapses in 5 days under investor pressure, well, it was never real to begin with. And the business application for you here is absolutely critical. If your most vital AI supplier's leadership and strategic direction can violently reverse in 5 days, you desperately need multi-vendor resilience to ensure your own company survives. But Hao's investigation doesn't just end in darkness and doom. There is actually this unexpected massive ray of light, the DeepMind AlphaFold counterargument. Now, this is the bonus concept that casual readers completely miss, but deep thinkers find absolutely transformative. AlphaFold is Hao's definitive proof that a completely different, better, and highly accountable form of artificial intelligence is already possible today. Let's look at the contrast. On one side, we have OpenAI's staggering projected burn rate. We're talking $115 billion by 2029, all racing toward this general, highly ambiguous intelligence. But on the other side, we have AlphaFold. AlphaFold won the 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for unlocking these massive breakthroughs in drug discovery by predicting 3D protein structures. They achieved monumental, peer-reviewed scientific breakthroughs using just a fraction of the infrastructure. They didn't require city-scale water consumption, and they didn't exploit global South labor to do it. AlphaFold actually provides the blueprint for the future. They relied on a narrow, defined scope rather than just vague general intelligence. They utilized genuine scientific validation and consent-based domain-specific data collection, which entirely avoided all the massive pitfalls of data colonialism. It completely proves that the scale-at-all-costs approach is a strategic, commercial choice by the megalabs. It is not a technical requirement for groundbreaking AI. So for you, this means the most durable business value over the next few years is likely going to come from targeted, deeply expert AI tools, not just the general-purpose hype machines. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought that I really want you to dissect. If AlphaFold can win a Nobel Prize and fundamentally change the landscape of human health with just a fraction of OpenAI's massive resources, What exactly is that projected $115 billion actually buying? Is it real scientific progress, or is it just the construction of an unregulated, unaccountable empire? Keep questioning the architecture around you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay focused.